And now, we've come to the portion of our show where we have to ask, what just happened? We can't believe it either, but let's take a look back at the insanity that was this week and look ahead to what will make us facepalm next week. This is What Just Happened on the Dean Obeidallah Show. Take it away, Dean.
Oh, I'm so happy to take it away. Dean Obeidallah. And actually, we're not going to just facepalm for next week because we're off until January 2nd. So for the next 9 or 10 days, we do our weekly segment here, What Just Happened? Joined tonight by Atheer Yacoub, my friend, comedian from New York Iron Comedy Festival, for tons of other shows. She's back in studio. Atheer, welcome back.
Hello, thank you.
With
Glad
Alex,
to be back.
And great to be here. And Alex Berg, who everyone knows, correspondent, producer, covering national news, women and LGBT culture issues. She guest hosts a lot on this channel. In fact, she'll be guest hosting for Mark Thompson coming up. What days?
December 26th, 27th, and 28th.
Which is really early in the morning.
Real early, 6 to 9 a.m. I'm not ready for it. I'm going to need a lot of caffeine.
Oh, my God. I saw Mark right before my show. He did his show from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And today's his birthday. And he was just I don't know, hanging out, gallivanting. I don't know what he was doing. But he's here and he's alert all the time. I would just go home and nap and then wake up. But some people can function on 4 or 5 hours sleep.
Let me tell you, I'm not one of those people.
Me neither.
Right. So it's going to be an interesting experiment.
So we have a lot to look back at the year. We're going to use some comedy to look back at the year because it's been such a hard year. Yeah. Try to have some fun. I want to start off with something that I really like. This is Will Ferrell came back January, almost a year ago, to host SNL and played George W. Bush to remind us about something about Bush. But now a year later, I kind of look at it different. Let's hear clip number 1.
I don't know if you've seen the news, but according to a new poll, my approval rating is at an all-time high. That's right. Donnie Q. Trump came in, and suddenly I'm looking pretty sweet by comparison. At this rate, I might even end up on Mount Rushmore, right next to Washington, Lincoln, and I want to say Kensington. I don't know. But the point is, I'm suddenly popular AF. And a lot of people are saying, man, I wish George W. Bush was still our president right about now. So I just wanted to address my fellow Americans tonight and remind you guys that I was really bad. like historically not good.
Historically not good. So, yeah, a year ago, I remember, we're all you're right, he really wasn't that good compared to Trump. He's terrible. 2 years in, I actually think Bush may have been good at this point. I might be delusional, and I don't want to grade on a curve, but policy, he was terrible. But in being caring and respectful and not being a bigot and a racist and not being sexist, I think you should get some credit for it. I didn't in the past. You really shouldn't. That's where you should be. But in the world we live in, I think maybe you should. Atheer, what do you think? Do you look back at Bush in a different way now after a couple of years of this monster?
Yeah, it's like this terrible ex that you're like, well, compared to what's out there on Tinder, maybe he wasn't that bad. So you start looking back nostalgically. Then I'm like, no, he's evil. This is just more evil. So it's it feels like a mind game that's going on. But I mean, he was less evil in some ways. I think Trump is more calculating, and it's easier to laugh off Bush in some ways because everyone just thought he's an idiot. But he didn't go out of his way to demonize Muslims and
he
immigrants.
He went to a mosque right after 9/11.
So at least he pretended or tried or whatever. But this guy just does not care about anything. So I mean, they're both evil and terrible, but I think Bush is slightly doing better, but that's not really a race you want to be in.
It's interesting, though, in a way, because people are like, do you miss Bush? I'm like, I would hug Dick Cheney at this point. Machiavelli's looking better by the moment here.
Right.
So, Alec, what do you think? And it's kind of funny, you mentioned Dick Cheney. There's a new movie opening in a few days, Veep, which is getting great. Not Veep, Vice.
Vice.
Veep is the series, but Vice, looks great by Adam McKay, who used to I worked with him at SNL, and he directed it and wrote this one. But when you look back at Bush now we have 2 full years. Can you say anything nice about Bush, or is it still bad, or can we grade on a curve at this point?
Here's what I think. I think the 2 years is key because we've seen just such a chipping away at procedure and I know civility is such a loaded word at this point.
Right.
And to me, it's sort of more that we're hungry again for someone to pay attention to the social norms of being a president. So I still think that Bush is absolutely awful and horrible. And I actually went back and I looked at some of the news coverage in like 2008 of him and just how loathed he was back then as a reminder. But I think to me, it points more to this hunger for there to be some kind of normalcy and politeness, which normally I don't care about politeness when it's coming from someone who is, racist or Islamophobic or sex, etc. It means nothing to me.
Right.
But it actually does point to the fact that that is a little bit meaningful when it comes to politics.
And right now we're sitting here with a countdown to the government closing, and it's all because Donald Trump wants to build a wall, which is not, to me, it's not policy. It truly is about white supremacy and giving this red meat to his base, because there are ways you can do border security that do not involve a huge white wall that to me is the equivalent of Confederate statute. And we all know that. Republicans and Democrats could find common ground on border security. It's different. Like, you didn't see this with Bush. You didn't see him call for a Muslim ban.
Or tear gassing people at the border, or putting them in not caves. Oh my God.
Caves? No,
cages.
we bombed
Yes,
them.
caves. Yeah. So, sorry. Yeah, definitely. Like, the more I think about it, I'm like, oh, he's sounding better by the minute, actually.
No, there were some really bad policies, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And it's not about, like, rehabilitating George Bush's reputation.
Right.
It's about Trump is so far afield from anything we've seen. He's horrific. And here's the big question. Do you think he could and will get worse in 2019? And if you think he will, any predictions? What do you think, Alex?
I always think that he'll get worse. In new and unusual ways, things will get worse. I have especially been thinking about the family separation policy just in looking back on the past year.
Right.
And, all of these kids are still separated from their parents, and that will persist. And I think we'll continue to get news of kids dying in U.S. custody. As I've been thinking about that, I've been thinking about the families and kids in Syria who, I think everyone was really collectively moved by a lot of the photos that we saw of these like little kids covered in dust. And I think that will all continue. And then I think on top of that, all of the Mueller investigation stuff will happen. So he's going to get even more out of control on Twitter and lash out even more. So I always think like when we've bottomed out, we haven't. It's going to get lower. It's going to get worse.
Yeah, he's got no limits, no boundaries. The things that we thought were inconceivable for a president or even a human being to say or do, he completely shattered all of our expectations of what just being a normal person should look like. And I can't even make predictions of how bad it's going to get, because every time we're like, oh my God, this is the worst. Like you said, we think we're bottoming out, and he finds a new rock bottom. So I think it's going to continue, just heighten whatever mistreatment he's been giving, like, immigrants and Muslims, and I think he'll just find new ways to torture us.
And one of the things, I was just going to add that one of the things I was so struck by in Mattis's letter saying that he was quitting was when he said that the president should find someone who aligns more with his vision of the world, more of an authoritarian vision. So that I found that to be so chilling, just in terms of departing because his vision doesn't align with a democratic vision of the world. So now I'm also thinking about who is he going to appoint in 2019? Who is going to fill those roles?
Putin. I mean,
might as well. Yeah.
Or just go like, Scott Baio. Just go way up. And it's going, what? I didn't see it. I joke that people say, what do you think Trump will do? And I go, the problem is I'm not a psychopath.
Yeah,
like,
you can't think like
I'm
that.
Not
Yeah.
You have to actually be associated. We need like a political version of Hannibal Lecter to speak to and get advice. He'd be like, what is he going to do next? Oh, he's going to eat Nancy Pelosi's liver. I didn't see that happening. So like the idea is that we do live in a world where there are no norms. So I tell people all the time on the show, we have to be ready for anything, because anything could come out to distract you. Or he's got a whim. He gets up, wants to tweet something crazy. And, you wonder how this ends. For Trump, does it just end by normal process? He doesn't run for re-election, he loses, or God forbid he wins, or does it end like? Have you seen the movie Scarface? Or no?
Yeah.
Like something it's like crazy in the end, like he's locked in the White House. You're not taking me alive type of scenario, like that.
I think nothing sticks to this guy. I don't know. I'm not very hopeful, even with the Mueller investigation, even with everything that's happening. I just doubt everything he manages to dodge somehow.
Something's got to stick. It's funny, little things do, but I wonder the criminality. If we might get a Mueller report by February, and that could be changing. So when you look back at 2018, is there one issue that jumps out that's defining for you from a political point of view for this year? Was there any one issue, one event, any incident?
I definitely think the family separations at the border. I mean, I think that we already are talking about it as such a shameful and ugly and horrible policy. And I think that as the years progress, it will only look worse in history when we look back. And I feel like that as one defining moment in terms of negative policies and coverage, but then also just the sheer number of people who've been galvanized by that and, by all of the other horrible things that this administration has done and have been galvanized to run for office. Mm-hmm. So I think, on the one hand, the horrible things that happened, right. And then on the other, like this amazing progressive response. Yeah.
What about you, Atheer? Anything that jump out?
A few big issues because, as a child of immigrants, definitely a family separation, DACA, trying to fucked up dreamers. Can I say that? I'm sorry. I already did. Is there anyone?
We can't go back. Let's go back in our time machine and go back. Of course, this is.
When it comes to Trump, I really can't stay away from profanities. It's really hard. But definitely. And then him trying to, of course, wanting to take away citizenship from naturalized citizens. So everything that he's done it's inhumane. It's unconstitutional. It's completely absurd that it's so hard. Just when I think I've reached my limit of anger on one issue, he comes out with something else. So, and it's really hard to keep up with the number of outrageous things that he's done to this country.
To me, one of the worst things is when he demonized Dr. Christine Ford
at
the rally for the fun of his audience, where he said, beer and all these things demeaning to her. But to me, though, one of the outgrowths of that was a great sketch from SNL with Matt Damon playing Brett Kavanaugh. So we'll go to commercial. We'll play. This is Matt Damon as Brett Kavanaugh, mimicking the opening statement he gave famously. Here's clip number 2. We'll go to a break after this and come back.
Judge Kavanaugh, are you ready to begin?
Oh, hell yeah. Let me tell you this. I'm going to start at an 11. I'm going to take it to about a 15 real quick. First of all, I showed this speech to almost no one. Not my family, not my friends, not even PJ or Tobin or Squee. This is my speech. There are others like it, but this is mine. I wrote it myself last night while screaming into an empty bag of Doritos. I'm here tonight because of a sham, a political con job orchestrated by the Clintons and George Soros and Kathy Griffin and Mr. Ronan Sinatra. Now, I am usually an optimist. I'm a keg is half full kind of guy.
Your entire week's exhausting news broken down in one hilarious hour. What Just Happened is now live with Dean Obeidallah.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Friday, December 21st, our last live show. But if you miss me, you can email me, dean@deanofradio.com, or follow me on Twitter @Dean Obeidallah, or watch us now. We're live on Facebook.com/Dean of Radio. You can see Atheer, Yacoub, and Alex Berg right here in studio for our weekly segment, What Just Happened. Let's play a little funny clip. This is Colbert singing a quick holiday song. Here's clip number 4.
I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving while we were off. Of course, now we kick off a very special season. We're all waiting for that magical man to check his naughty and nice list because Mueller Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're tweeting. He knows your hair is fake. He knows when you've been bad or bad because you're bad for goodness sake, you're bad.
It was a short song. It could have went longer. That's where it ended, but it was funny stuff. So, look, if you had to say one good thing about Trump or his administration, is there anything that you could say that's good, Alex?
The gaffes are laughable, and like Stephen Miller's spray on hair, or Trump thinking that coyotes are actually animals. The one good thing I could say is that, like, sometimes, maybe all the time, you cannot make this shit up. Like,
right.
it's just so
absurd,
unconscionable and so absurd that, like, I get some joy out of those things.
Out of his stupidity and his mistakes.
Yes,
and
yeah.
Stephen Miller, I call him the gargoyle, which is probably mean, and I shouldn't do that, but that's too bad.
But here's the
horrible.
thing. I have also learned from them, so this is maybe a good thing too. When someone is, like, so horrible and racist and alt-right and not whatever, it's okay to call them a gargoyle.
That's what I think.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice thing to say.
Gargoyle.
Gargoyle. If I were, I think Alex said it with, it's encouraging people to come out and vote and care about issues that I think before people didn't really care about. It's forced me to look more at the news and care about things that normally I probably wouldn't be paying as close attention to. So I think even though it's divided the country in a lot of ways, it's also brought out a lot of strength and good people that hopefully will prevent him from winning the next election if he doesn't get himself impeached first.
To me, the one thing, well, obviously the real good thing was the reaction of so many people to get out in the street and get involved in campaigns and run. And we had the blue wave, we won big. I think the other odd thing is that Trump has made us learn things like the emoluments clause in the Constitution and the pardoning power of the president. Are there any limits to it? And impeachment means one thing, but removing a president takes 2/3 in the Senate. These are things we may have learned about in school or talked about, but now we've all become. So
seeing it come to life.
I was a lawyer for 6 years. I've read more criminal sentencing memos in the last 2 months than I read in 6 years of practicing law, because every day Mueller's got a sentencing memo, the defendant's got a sentencing memo, and you start learning about all these nuances of legal stuff that I have not thought about since law school, some of them. And it's been interesting that we're all on the same page. Like we can all sit for the bar right now, and I think many of us could pass, because all collectively our knowledge of our legal system has gotten more and more acute. And in the long term, it's probably kind of good in a way. People are really reading the Constitution
informed.
maybe for the first time in a long time, if ever. Because who really reads? You read the Constitution. I had to in law school, but I mean, if it wasn't for that, when would I have read it? One time in school, in history class or something. So, on some bizarre level, I think if you pay attention, you've become more knowledgeable about our system, and perhaps to prevent another weird Trump ever getting elected again. So let's see. Someone just called to say they have one good thing about Trump administration. Let's see. Here is Wayne from New York. Wayne, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, hi.
How are you?
Speaker. Hi there.
Oh yeah, take us off speaker. It's never good. You're here with Atheer and Alex. So you called in to quickly say there was one good thing about the Trump administration. What is it from your point of view?
Eventually, it is going to end.
When do you think it's going to end, Wayne?
Well, unless he actually changes things up and makes it a permanent seat, hopefully 2020. Or no, actually before that, let's go Mueller.
Let's go. You're going to vote Mueller. We talked earlier.
No, I mean Mueller, get him out of
I agree with you. No, I agree. And it's very interesting that if I talked about it earlier, and again, this Trump has made me read the 25th Amendment of the Constitution over. How many times do you read that? But the reason I read it is if Trump is removed, Pence becomes president, but the vice president is vacant. And the only way to confirm that person is both the Senate and the House. Both chambers have to approve the person. If they don't, there's no VP. So you can leave Pence there as president. And if we get him out, it's President Nancy Pelosi, folks. Enjoy that. And it's remarkable if you play this kind of game of Thrones chess that I play all the time alone. But so, Wayne, you're saying the good thing is it's going to end. In a year from now, do you think Trump will still be president?
I hope not. And I don't think so. I really don't.
Interesting. What do you think will happen? I'm going to turn to my panel after this. I'll let you go. But what do you think might take him out?
I'm going to be a little, maybe overly optimistic, and I'm going to say that the Republicans are going to come to their senses, and should Mueller actually get this done, they're going to turn on him.
You could probably hear Atheer and Alex nodding no right to that. I thought you were going to say a cheeseburger was going to get him or something like that. That would have been more.
That's a more probable chance.
Atheer is a nutritionist as well as a comedian. All right, Wayne, thanks for the call. I was going to wait to the end, but since it came up now. In a year from now, December 21st, 2019, who do you think is president of the United States? I'll start with you.
I think it's Trump.
Think so?
I really don't want to say yes, but the way things are going, and he's so sly. There's no depths and corners that he won't go to get himself out of whatever we think can get him impeached. I don't know.
There's no wrong answer. I mean, and that's probably the more likely. I mean, objectively, if you're betting, that's probably the more likely scenario. But you are a nutritionist. Do you think a cheeseburger?
I think that's more likely to kill him. You're right. I'm hoping that his diet.
We're not hoping. We can't say we hope he dies because we want to keep the show going.
I mean, everyone's gonna die eventually.
Right.
Is all I'm saying. Some might die because of their dietetic choices, and some of those people might be the president. I'm just saying, it's a likely possibility.
So I get all right. And what do you think in a year from today? Who do you think is president of the United States?
I could go 50-50, Pence or Trump. The thing that I have a hard
that's an
time,
easy. Come on.
I know. I mean, I hate making predictions like this because I don't know. I feel like
there's no wrong answer.
I know. I think Pence could be president, and I'm not sure. Maybe Mueller will get him, but also I wonder, does Trump really want to be president any longer? Like, you can see the way that this is already chipping away.
Like he's had his fun. Yeah.
He never wanted to be president to begin with. He never thought it was going to get this far. I feel like the degree to which you start seeing his 17 tweet, Twitter threads, I start to wonder how much this is chipping away at him to the point where he's just going to throw in the towel.
Oh, I don't know if he'd throw. I think he's too egotistical to ever throw in the towel. And evil.
Right.
I think he's trying to prove a point, and he loves the spotlight and attention. I don't think he loves being president, but I think he loves the power that comes with it and the narcissism.
Usually, like, the president ages in office, but he's aging everyone else. I mean, he looks about the same. I mean, he really, his hair's different shades of orange on different days. So that's it. Besides that,
it's because he drinks the blood of immigrants. That's what keeps him young.
Or that's very nice.
As we start the march towards 2020. I guess on the other hand, I could see him getting back out on the campaign trail and loving it because he gets to do all of his rallies and stuff again. So he'll be fortified. Yeah.
But Atheer, does he not, on some level, remind you of those comedians who just needs to be on stage and get
just
laughs?
For attention?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. He's a buffoon. He just likes to get attention and laughs, but he's doing it. He's getting laughs for the wrong reason. It's like everybody's laughing at you, dude. But I think he's like a child. He just wants to keep pushing the boundaries and limits and be like, ooh, can I touch this thing? Or how far can I go without them catching me? And I think he just keeps, I don't know if he's getting lucky. I think he just knows how to cover his ass.
Right. So let's talk about, is there a chance to ever find common ground with any Trump supporters? It's maybe a Christmas Hanukkah miracle. Here is from Weekend Update, Pete Davidson, the cast member, with former Lieutenant Dan Crenshaw, who had just won his election for Congress. And a couple of weeks before, Pete Davidson had made fun of him. Dan Crenshaw, if you might recall, lost one eye in battle. So he has an eye patch, and Pete had made fun of him. But they came on SNL, and Crenshaw came on. It's really Dan Crenshaw on SNL. And they told some jokes, but it was really Dan Crenshaw and Pete trying to find, I'm not saying common ground on issues, but the idea of civility and respect, that you can have debates without it being vicious and vile like Trump does. So let's hear clip number 5, and we'll talk about it.
I mean this from the bottom of my heart. It was a poor choice of words. The man is a war hero, and he deserves all the respect in the world. And if any good came of this, maybe it was that for one day, the left and the right finally came together to agree on something. That I'm a dick.
You think?
Lieutenant Commander Dave Crenshaw, everyone, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for making a Republican look good.
You gotta stop saying that, man. You've been saying it all day. Please, look, I just wanted to say, for people that don't know, the reason you're wearing an eye patch right now is that you lost your eye to an IED in Afghanistan during your 3rd combat tour. And I'm sorry.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate you saying that.
So, and they went on to find some more common ground. Do you, in real life, have any friends who are Trump supporters, either of you?
I have friends, because I grew up in Alabama, so a lot of my friends' parents, who are really nice people, are Trump supporters. But I don't think I think we already have common ground with a lot of Trump supporters, not necessarily the ones that agree with like his immigration policies and all the evil stuff, but I think a lot of like just good-natured people that really didn't know better, or I don't think all of them are evil just because he is. So I'm sure we have a lot more in common than we think. We're all human.
So your friend, do you ever talk to them when you go back to Alabama about Trump?
I've never talked to their parents about, I don't even think they talk to their parents about Trump. It's a very weird subject, but I don't know. I've had coworkers mention, I know people who have voted for Trump. I just kind of steer clear from that because I'd rather not know why. Sometimes I don't want to get into it. This is not a good environment to have that debate. But I'm sure
they might say, we got to keep those Muslims out of here.
Right. And I don't want to come out as a Muslim in Alabama. So I've been trying to fly under the radar.
That you were a Muslim all those years? Like you kept it?
I could only hide it for so long until they offered me pork and I broke down.
Alex, do you have any friends who are Trump supporters?
I don't have any friends that are Trump supporters, but I definitely there are people in my extended family who are Trump supporters. And I think that I agree insofar as we have common ground that we all face a lot of these similar issues. We're all working people. We all, want a better life, better lives, stuff like that, and could benefit from democratic policies as such, right. And when I see them, I kind of feel like because of my position in the world as like a white woman, who doesn't face a lot of discrimination, that I'm actually well positioned to have these conversations with people. And I actually think like it's really incumbent on white people in my situation to kind of take the mantle to have those tough conversations. So because like can't fall on other people to do that work.
Right.
So I think that maybe if common ground means having some of those tough conversations and awkward conversations, then yeah, I'm willing to find common ground in that sense.
I wonder. To me, it almost seems like until Trump is gone, it's going to be very hard to find common ground. The extreme Trump supporters, there's nothing I can say. I can't, I'm never going to go halfway on bigotry or racism. I can't meet you halfway. Sorry. We'll ban half the Muslims. No, still not going to like it, that kind of thing. But I wonder if it'll take for Trump to leave and some of the real extreme voices just to disappear back to the fringe of society where they used to live before. Yeah. The white supremacists were there. They were just on the fringes. Now they're really out and open. And you have like Steve King, the member of Congress from Iowa, openly now white supremacist and white nationalist. Before he was more guarded in it. But in the time of Trump, he feels like he can be open. And a Democrat almost beat him in Iowa. And when they didn't in November, the white supremacists literally, and I read about it, took a victory lap saying, look, a guy was openly one of us and he won. And more of them are going to run for office. And that's the world we live in right now.
Here's the thing. I'll never concede ground to someone like that because I don't think that you can find ground with someone who believes that you're existent or someone who has views that are an affront to your existence as a human being. But I do think that like some of us who can, if you have that relative, you have to have a conversation with them about it. Like, I know maybe there is no way of changing their mind at all. And to me, it doesn't mean like giving up any ground in terms of my views or agreeing with them or feeling like that's okay. But I do feel like who's going to have that conversation? Who's going to hold these people accountable?
Yeah. I mean, even though my family, no one that I know of is a Trump supporter, but I still have to, argue with them about gay rights and things that they don't understand because culturally and religious for religious reasons. I mean, we talked about how they're kind of similar to Republicans in many ways of their conservative views on that issue. But since they know me and I'm in a position where I feel like it's my duty to speak on behalf of the people who are who can't speak to them, and it's coming more from me. I mean, it's going to be a little bit more powerful coming from me to a family member than having them hear about it from a stranger because they can relate to me. So like you're saying, like you talking to your family about maybe some of the Trump issues might be easier or more digestible to them than hearing it from somebody else because they're not going to be as defensive as they would be from a stranger.
It also, though, took me almost 2 full years to get beyond the idea of actually caring what makes Trump voters tick. Like there was been so many.
Right.
Another study, another report. Someone went in the field and talked to Trump supporters. We went to the field and talked to progressives. I don't see any of those. And I know that they're like, well, they're all represented in the media. But I no longer care what makes them tick. If they want to call in, fine, we'll have a conversation. If they're not being a rude jackass, I'll talk to them. But we learn in November that there's more of us, that we come out, we vote, we win. So, look, you're going to have your views. I didn't care before what made Bush supporters tick or Obama opponents tick. For some reason, there was collective interest, and I get it. It was almost like National Geographic, like what makes these people function like this? Let's find them in their natural environment and speak to them. It was almost condescending and patronizing.
It's like the sociopath thing, like that show Mindhunters, where they get in the criminal mind of all these sociopaths and serial killers. They're like, how? What is it that makes you tick? And it's like a whole experiment. They sit there and do a study and talk to them. So it is that morbid curiosity a little bit of like, what? Or I don't know. At the end of the day, I think a lot of it is just ignorance, unfortunately. Like I see it a lot. So I don't think there's a satisfying answer.
But I think some of us are simply amazed. Like, you still like the guy?
Like, after all this, what's left?
Right, but it makes me concerned more that there are more Americans who agree with open racism and bigotry and sexism than I thought there were. Like, I knew there was some.
Yeah, but I didn't realize to what extent. Yeah,
who openly agreed with it or didn't care. They tolerated it. But no big deal. Like, whatever. I'm going to get a tax cut.
That's it. I think more people are apathetic to these issues. And yeah, like you said, they just care more about tax cut. I don't think that they voted for Trump because they're necessarily racist or bigoted in some way. Some. But I think many really are apathetic about these issues.
I mean, I can remember when I was at HuffPost, I covered a couple of Trump rallies, and I remember talking to people, and some of them couldn't even articulate why he appealed to them. And
he just grunted and pointed at things.
And I think, I mean, basically, but I think that it was the emotional pull of white supremacy is so deep for some people that I think that he is really reflective of some people's views in that way and of their fear about, the changing face of America. And so I think that whatever that is, in a way that, like, they couldn't say, I am afraid, and Trump's views, Trump's racism speaks to me, or, Trump calling for the wall. They couldn't say that, but I felt like the emotional appeal spoke to them on such a deep
He knew how to access those feelings.
It's tribal. It's tribal. Deep down.
It's so deep down. Yeah.
I say that not all Trump supporters are racist, but all racists are Trump supporters. Right. Like, there wasn't someone going, I hate Mexicans and Muslims, but I voted Jill Stein because green, renewable energy is really what I'm about. So, okay, let's take a break. When we go to a break, though, let's play it. I've been playing some of the clips. I went back and looked at some of my favorite comedy clips. This is Trevor Noah on The Daily Show talking about voter suppression. And I think it's great, Trevor taking on a substantive issue like voter suppression, and any of the comedians who do, like Colbert did so often in SNL, taking on not just getting laughs, but teaching people about the issue. So here we'll go out to clip number 6, Trevor Noah, and then we'll come back after this.
Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting how every time Republicans create a voting restriction, it just so happens to disproportionately affect people of the brown? And I'm not going to lie, it's very slick. Yeah, because on the surface, it always seems legitimate. Yeah, 100 years ago, the argument was nothing personal. We can't let people vote if they don't know how to read. And black people were like, but learning to read was illegal. They're like, oh, ironic. Look at that. And now today, it's like, how can we trust that it's really you if the names aren't exactly the same? And black people are like, yeah, but white people never spell my name right. Well, that's too bad, Derek. It's like, yo, it's Derek. The truth is, like, let's be honest. Let's be honest. You don't have to say who you're targeting to target someone. You just have to know which rules are likely to hit them the most, right? Like if I was trying to block white people at the voting booth, I wouldn't need to say, no white people are allowed. I'd just be like, sorry, no pumpkin spice lattes in the voting booth. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry, folks. You got to go home. I'm so sorry, everybody. So sorry, everybody. Go home. Go home.
Listening to What Just Happened with everyone's favorite host, Dean Obidala.
Like he didn't mean it.
Yeah.
And welcome back, Dean Obidala's show. We're live Friday, December 21st. It's our last live show, doing our weekly segment on Friday, What Just Happened. Joined this week by Alex Berg. All the time you hear a voice here. In fact, she'll be filling in for Mark Thompson. There's 26th, 27th, 28th.
Yep, that's right.
And then Atheer Yacoub, comedian, performs all over New York, all over the country. She is also hosts a podcast, right?
Yeah, called The No Fly List.
The No Fly List. Where can people find out more about it?
It's everywhere on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud. So wherever, just Google we're
No
at
Fly
No
List?
Fly List Pod or The No Fly List.
Ironically, if you Google No Fly List, you get on the No Fly List.
Don't tell them. That's how.
Unfortunately. So, sorry, folks. That's it. You're not going to get the blog. So, okay, let's talk about a couple issues here before we run out of time. So, we're looking at 2019. It'll be here in a matter of about 2 weeks. What issues would you like Democrats to focus on, especially the presidential candidates, in 2019? Because we're going to have the first debates in June. Formally, we're probably going to have forums before that. What do you want Democrats to make their top 1 or 2 issues? Atheer, we start with you.
Sure.
Prizes, gifts and prizes.
Oh,
if you get
yeah.
this right.
All right. Okay. Well, both of these things hit close to home for me. One is immigration for obvious reasons, and 2 is
because you want to get rid of your fiance.
Right, exactly. He's a naturalized citizen, so fingers crossed he can still get deported. No, and the second is gun control. So I don't know if you saw my Facebook.
Oh yeah,
when I was
tell
in
people.
So when I was in Alabama, we went to the mall on Black Friday and there was a shooting that happened. And, there was a quote unquote good guy with a gun who they thought was the suspect. He was a black guy, of course, and they shot him. I mean, that's why they thought, he was a suspect. And it turned out he was a veteran and his dad is a police officer. So, I was posting about it or tweeting about it and I got a lot of really negative. I didn't even say anything about gun control. I was just mentioning what happened. And I got a lot of flack from all of these NRA pro-Trump supporters who are first of all, doubting that I was even there. They're like, oh, I see you're from New York. How could you be in Alabama? As if, planes don't exist or anything.
Not in their world.
Not in their world. They probably
they
never
don't believe in science.
Exactly. And so thank God, I mean, no one in my family got hurt, but a little girl got hurt in the process of the crossfire. And I just couldn't believe, not only that, all the shoppers had guns on them. So many of them took out their guns. And unfortunately, this young man ended up getting killed, and the person who actually did the shooting got away. And so,
did they ever catch the person?
I don't know if I need to check now if they caught him. They must, because the person he shot, well, he was in a really bad state in the hospital. So I imagine he's the only witness that would know. But it was crazy. They found a gun in Santa's village. What kind of world are we living in where in a mall you go and there's a shooting? And we were right next to the shooting.
Maybe it's for if a kid says, Santa, I'd like to get a gun. And
there you go. Oh, yeah.
I have one right
and that's true. You know what? It might have been you're right. In Alabama, you never know.
That might be something good SS for.
I was arguing with my Arab friends there.
What? By the way, Atheer's Arab, folks.
Yeah, sorry.
So whatever she says, it's okay. Whoever follows. I was talking to my Arab friends because I want to warn people, because whatever comes after that generally is not going to be good.
My best friends are Arab. So I was arguing with them about it, and they were like, well, I have to protect myself. My friend had a gun, and she was this young, petite, 28-year-old girl.
You have a right to have a gun.
And I was like,
criminal, you should.
You have the right to have a gun, but you shouldn't fear for your life of going into a mall and feel the need to have a gun on you and have other people being hurt in the process. So you totally, no one's trying to take your guns away. We're just saying you don't need to be in a mall shooting people. You don't need to have a gun in a mall. There needs to be some sort of boundary and control over that, because all that happened is an innocent person got killed and 2 innocent people got shot. And we hear this over and over and over again. So I really think we need to unify and focus on this issue.
So you want Democrats to make that issue, which I don't think they will.
I don't think they will.
No, they should. 30 Americans will die today, including 8 children on average, children or teens, by gun violence. Trump won't talk about that. He'll talk about a wall, but we quantify how many Americans are killed today, and it's acceptable losses because the NRA, the National Russian Association, is backing him.
I think even Republicans should care. I mean, why would they? I don't understand. It's innocent people are getting. I know the NRA, but.
So, Alex, what do you want the leading Democratic candidates or any Democratic presidential candidates? What would you like the top 1 or 2 issues that they champion?
I mean, I definitely want to see Medicare for all.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's a huge one. I would also love to see people with different ideas for a Green New Deal. I want to see many different kinds of ideas for healthcare. I don't think that every single candidate has to be touting the same exact plan.
Right.
And then I think beyond that, I mean, also, in my heart of hearts, I would love to see gun control as an issue, even though they may not do that. Immigration, of course. But yeah, I think healthcare is a huge one.
It's going to be, I had on 2 candidates for president this week, 2 former candidates. Neither are well known, but they're both successful business guys. One's a member of Congress, John Delaney. He's from Maryland, and he didn't run for re-election this time. He formally announced. And then Andrew Yang, who talks about universal basic income, which is everyone gets $1,000 a month. And he's like a millionaire entrepreneur guy. And we talked about it. And after talking to him, it actually made a lot of sense. I'm not sure if we would do the outlay, what it would cost. There's ways of saving money too, but I think we're going to see some out-of-the-box ideas. I think some Democrats are going to embrace this idea of universal basic income, even if it's on means testing where it's not you're a billionaire or a millionaire, you don't get it, because they don't really spend the money. The idea is giving this to middle class and lower income people who will, you give them $1,000 a month, they spend it. That helps the economy. It primes the economy. You give it to wealthier people, it shows they don't spend it. But it was an interesting idea. And I hope, like you're saying, Alex, I hope we hear Democrats, it doesn't all become the same thing. Medicare for all, checkbox, got it.
Right.
You know, each of those things, like education for all. And it almost becomes what Bernie's platform was in 2016, updated now, and everyone's online. But he was in the vanguard. I mean, he really pushed it mainstream Medicare for all.
I mean, philosophically speaking, I really want to see Democrats stand for something.
Yes.
And I'm not convinced that if Democrats solely run against Trump, that's going to get us anywhere.
I don't think that's a winning message. I really don't. I think you need to give people for president. For a midterm, you can make a referendum. But I think it's going to be remarkable. We're going to have probably 20 or 25 candidates. Who knows? I mean, it's hard to say. I'm going to put you guys on the spot now. Not who do you think is going to win. But in a year from now, we'll already have been 6 months into debates. If you look at the Republican primaries in 2016, you already had some front runners. Who do you think will be the top two Democrats at this time, a year from now? Because we'll be in a very serious place. We'll be right on the verge of Iowa's in January 2017, 20, and you're going to have New Hampshire right around like February. So who do you think? I won't make it a top one. That's too hard, but say top two. So Alex, who do you think the top two Democrats might be at this time next year?
I'm interested to see what happens with Beto O'Rourke. I think now that a lot of people know his name, he's in the media cycle, people are paying attention to him. I think one of the things that happens is you see people take command just because they're in the media cycle and there are a lot of stories about them. And since it's early on, that is what interests people or, gets candidates on people's radar. Right. I'm personally interested in Kamala Harris. Should be exciting. I was looking at a
So
CNN,
objectively, do you think there's a chance those two might be in the top two?
I think Beto O'Rourke maybe has a better chance than her. Just because I know that this is such a tough game to play because it is so early on, and I feel like it's going to change so quickly. And like maybe Biden, if
that's what I was thinking. Biden,
happens,
maybe Elizabeth Warren. I don't know.
So objectively, you're saying you're not saying who you like.
I think Biden might have a chance. I would like Elizabeth Warren, but or Harris, but
it's going to be interesting because so much is going to happen. We're going to have debates. Some are going to stumble. Some are not going to raise the money and drop out. By next year at this time, we might be down to 10 candidates, but we're going to still have that many. So let's take a quick break. We'll come up and wrap up for our last live broadcast here on the Dean Obeidallah Show right after this.
Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
You're listening to What Just Happened with everyone's favorite host, Dean Obeidallah.
I made them put that in there. Everyone's favorite host, according to Dean Obeidallah.
Yeah.
I forced my producers to put it in there. So, my friends, we're wrapping up. It's been a long year. Are you looking forward to 2019? Are you I should not looking forward to it, but optimistic about 2019 will be better than 2018 overall? Politically, I'm talking?
Politically, maybe there is some truth to this Mueller stuff and some, I mean, not truth, but maybe it will actually be effective in some way. I'm curious more than anything.
And Alex?
Oh, I definitely am. I feel like we're starting to get the goods on the Mueller investigation, and that makes me happy.
I feel good, too. So I just want to thank my entire team, Lauren, who came in sick all week, doing a great job. Thanks, Lauren. And Matt, who's out because he didn't want to get sick. Matt's away. And Shakira, who sat in today. All of you, thanks very much for all the great work this year. Alex and Atheer, thank you very much for coming in. And everyone, thanks for tuning in this year. It's been, about a year and a half now I've been doing this. And we're not canceled as of yet. Wait, this just in. I'm canceled. All right. So last show,
Almost made it.
But I will be on Twitter all vacations. If you're on Twitter, follow me. Say hi at Dean Obeidallah or drop me an email sincerely. I'm always trying to make the show better. If you have ideas about content you want me to cover more, what you like and don't like. I've gotten some emails telling me constructive criticism. I'm all ears. Dean at deanofradio.com. That's DEAN at deanofradio.com or facebook.com/deanofradio. Alex Atheer, want to tell your Twitter handles quickly?
Yeah, it's at Atheer Yacoub. You'll never learn to spell it.
And Alex?
It's Alex Berg.
Thank you, Alex Atheer, very much for coming in.
Everyone,
thanks for tuning in.
Happy
holidays. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate. Happy New Year. Let's have a great 2019. You guys, we won in 2018.
Yeah.
Because all of us work 2019 even better.